What's up, Digidestins? This is Kyle D, better known as Ridemyavatar, and today we're going to go over the EX Collection meta tier list that I usually do for each set. So guys, let's dive right into the video and let's see what meta decks do we have in store for us. Boys and girls, we have a massive amount of lineup and we'll just go color coordinating first. So first off, let's talk about all the amazing red decks. We'll follow by blue, yellow, green, purple, multicolors, you know, the whole 9 yards. Oh yeah, and black, because black's got the most newest support in the world right now, and it's going to be scary when we come into that. So first off, let's talk about it. We got Shine Greymon red that came into the scene from the trial deck, and he's still semi-viable, actually. He's not as strong. He's a low tier 2, maybe. I'm going to call him back end tier 3 deck right now. He's still got the Pierce going for him. He's got the extra security checks going. He's a very powerful all-around deck, but the problem is the Bond decks kind of outpace him, and the Jesmon is just so much more consistent deck. It's not even funny. Next, let's talk about it. The newest deck for EX Collection in red that got a little support, and that is through Analog Boy. Analog Boy really hyped up this deck and made it a lot more consistent and a lot more powerful. I think we have, with the Flamemon that has Pierce, also made it a little more viable in itself, because that was the only thing this deck really hated, was swinging into something with 3 checks, blocker knocked it out, and then it died. Well, with Analog Boy passing it back to your turn afterwards, you can recoup some of your losses, and just sometimes that's just enough to really grind out the game, and it does a lot better than its pure ancient Garurumon counterpart, because now you have the ability to put down a Agunimon that has the ability of being able to, when it swings, produce another ancient Greymon, so it can do this cycling multiple times. So really nice being able to not worry about having to digivolve for this effect. So it's a really solid deck. Next, let's talk about the elephant in the room. We do have the power behind us with Bonds of Bravery, aka Courage. It's a really good contender deck. It's one of Red's feeling like red deck. It's just how you would play red. It's just all red in a nutshell. Boom, fusion. Everything you want to do with it is just red incarnation. Blow something up, check multiple securities, do what red does best. That's what I gotta say with it. It is definitely a tier 1 contender. So then let's talk about Jesmon. Jesmon actually is really good. He kind of falls to the wayside a little bit, just because Jesmon and the Agumon Bonds of Bravery is just so much more consistent that Gallantmon is just falling behind a little bit, but not too bad. I think he's just a little bit worse than the ancient Greymon build, but he's still a tier 2 deck in my opinion. Next, Jesmon, no contest. He is a tier 1 deck. There is no reason you would not put Jesmon in the tier 1 category. And I'm just going to say this right out loud. Jesmon just clears out security for days, multi-attacking, multiple security checks, just makes your opponent just have a rough time just keeping up. So that's our red lineup right now. I think that's a pretty solid mirror where we should see red right now. I'll talk about the dedicated plan in a little bit. It's one of those decks, it's a multi-tier deck. So you might be wondering why dedicated plan's there. It's there for a reason. So next, let's talk about our good friend Blue decks. Blue got Imperial Dramon in this set. Let's be honest, Imperial Dramon is no slouch. This deck is definitely a tier 1 contender, and I think he's going to be right up here. He's going to be that tier 1 deck everybody wants to rush to, because he's just an overall great deck, and I would never doubt it. Next, with this, Azulamon is a great deck. It gets some decent needed support, not in EX Collection, but later sets. That'll probably push him up where he needs to be, but right now, the Ice Wall makes him a great tier 1 contender, but I think he's just slightly below. he's a little bit better than Gallantmon, just because taking away sources and then swinging in multiple times is really nasty with multiple security checks. Hexablaumon, you could combo these two together, 1-1, but if you're just going pure Hex, he kind of falls a little bit behind with that because he does struggle a bit. It's pure Hex is a great control deck, don't get me wrong, but his overall feel is he needs a Zulanmon to back him up. So a Zulanmon theme version with Hexablau is great. Hexablau Pure is kind of the low end tier 2. It still can top and still do crazy nutty things, but it still struggles a bit. But you can also combo it with All Force Vidramon and all these other fantastic decks. Hexablau is just a great combo controller that your opponent has to answer to when it comes out. Next, let's talk about All Force Vidramon. All Force Vidramon got some decent support. I'm not going to lie. The trial deck really helped it out. EX Collection gives it a small little added bump, but it's too slow in this format where it would matter the most. It can handle the tier 2 decks quite easily, and in my opinion, that's fine and it's perfect. But the problem comes down to when it starts trying to take on the tier 1s head on, it struggles ever so much. Just this much struggling, and it's just... If it just had a little bit more extra support, it probably would be nutty. Let's just wait to see what BT9 kind of gives us for All Force Vidramon with the X antibody stuff. Next, Ancient Gabumons. I'm going to call this Ancient Gabumons. It is definitely one of those top tier decks. I think it's one of the best competitive wise, and you can fight me on this one, but I think Gabumon Ancients is just consistent incarnate. You get multiple attacks off. It does have some issues. It's not as good as, let's say, Gabumon. It's pure Rookie Rush variant, but it gives you multiple lines and it handles security control quite well. I think we can also say Gabumon itself is just a really good deck. It's one of the tier 1s. We already know from the beginning of this format, it's topped so many events of EX, not even EX, but BT6 in general. It's just a really great deck. It's consistent. It just takes care of everything. And it just multi-attacks combos out. There's not much your opponent can keep up with. Let's talk about Rookie Rush. I think Rookie Rush is still a great tier 2 deck. Blue-green Rookie Rush is always going to show up in the meta. It's going to still go rushy, get everything off the board kind of status. But at the end of the day, it still is starting to creep down because a lot of people are having more and more answers, a lot more board control, a lot more everything rounded, and just makes it more extremely harder for Rookie Rush to compete. We did see a Rookie Rush top over the weekend, but that's about it. So let's dive right into, I think that's all for Blue. Blue is all done. Cool. Next, let's talk about it. The elephant in the room, Lord Nightmon. Still tier 1 deck status. It's not going anywhere. It's still going to do its shenanigans. It's here to stay. Lord Nightmon will eventually get knocked down to probably tier 2 status following next format. But outside of that, EX Collection, he's still a fantastic deck. He didn't really get any support in BTEX, but hey, it's fine. Shine Greymon definitely started coming back. I would say it's a solid tier, low end tier 1, but I'm going to call it tier 2 top end. I think Shine Greymon is a standard, and I think that's really good of a deck. It has all the answers it needs. It takes the long game and just clears boards constantly with himself. So that's how you're going to handle most situations. Then we have War Greymon. War Greymon definitely coming back. This card is anti-meta. Usually you combo it with Sayakamon. So Sakuyamon just combos really well with Yellow War Greymon. It's not even funny. There's just nothing I would never say about the pairing. It just Sakuyamon shuts down most decks, and Yellow War Greymon just clears out the threats on the board state, kills out blockers, or lowers the big guys so you can swing into it. It is a very powerhouse deck. It's very piece reliant though, so you have to have the right pieces at the right time. If you use up your resources too early, it does fall to the wayside. Like a lot of the tier 2 decks, they just burn burn hot fast, then you're losing out. So let's go into it. Dynasmon is a really solid deck. Just it combos in with a lot of decks in this format, and I'm not even joking. There's so many good opportunities you can have with Dynasmon. It's not even funny. I love Dynasmon's potential, but there's just maybe some issues later down the road. It takes time. It sets up a little late. You could say it's combos with Mastamon really well. It combos with War Greymon really well. It combos with Shine Greymon really well. They all combo really well with him, but as his own standalone, he's definitely a tier. I think if we're going to say he's by himself, I think this is where he sits. If he was comboed in with these guys, he fits in with them. They just more synergy, more consistency. Really, at the end of the day, that's all that is. Next, Yellow Starmon. Starmon, well, you know, Yellow Rookie Rush in general is still a fantastic overall deck. I think it's a solid tier 2 deck. It can definitely play with the big boys. It's still fast and everything like that, but there are times where it just gets counter in the face hard, and that's where its biggest issues lie. Next, let's be honest, Yellow and Purple Mastamon are always in the equal range. I think it just does the job what it needs to. It handles security control. It helps speed out some variants. Just very solid deck overall. Yellow and purple are combined in this one, so I'm just going to say it here just so that we understand that Yellow Purple Mastamon is just right there. So either version is really good. They both combo and synergy as well. And I think that's all for yellow. We're going to move on to green. So first off, we do have Ancient Troymon. Ancient Troymon sadly falls. The problem with this format in general, green has all the best support, but it doesn't have the out to the security option field that most of the other decks kind of just don't care about it. It's a very slow, tanky deck. And to be honest with you, if it wasn't for security control decks being like a popular thing, this deck would be able to combat the rest of the format and hold them back. A lot of the options got a real power creep bonus that green just didn't get. So until they get that, it's just going to be a little bit. They're going to stick in the tier 2 range. OTK Grand Kuwagamon Green, still a fantastic deck. Very combo reliant. I think it's good, especially if you combo it with red and get dedicated plan versions. But green is still a solid matchup, just because you rely on it. You have just clear security out, but the only biggest issue is, at the end of the day, security control. And that's what keeps it green at bay. Just, I wish green had more outs to security control, but they will eventually get it in set 8, which is a little late in my opinion, but who knows? Might be the saving grace that they needed. So let's go into purple. Purple's got a lot to play with. First off, Lilith Loop really came out of left field, and it's been sticking around since its conception, and it just constantly keeps reeling its head, and it just keeps pounding away at the opponent, just forcing your opponent lose resources, long turns and everything like that. Just, yeah, we're going to clear out your board once or twice and just keep it my turn for a good 20 minutes. That's the downside of Lilith Loop. It's going to be underplayed because it just takes too long. A combo turn is just too long, in my opinion, for this deck to really shine fantastically. You'll lose the timeout before you'll actually win. You lose to a normal match. So just keep that in mind. Next, Titamon really shines in this format. Titamon definitely is a solid deck. It has an OTK variant. It is a very great deck indeed. I do agree that it is a tier 2 deck. I don't see it outpacing the other tiers, but who knows? We could see a very different style. Next, Don Devi. I want to say high tier 3 if you're going pure Don Devi. There are other instances that can help it out, but I feel like Don Devi, if you're in the right format, he's a tier 1 deck. If you're facing a heavy security control format, as long as Don Devi keeps getting popped and you can recycle him back constantly, your opponent is not going to have a way of outing him. So just keep that in mind, that Don Devi is still a great deck all in all. Next, purple Plutomon. I feel like this deck is still really good. I feel like it's on the same level of Tynamon. Just as long as you can get the Cerberus Mons coming out and you're drawing constantly, popping options, it's still going to do its job. It's just going to force your opponent in bad situations that you're just winning by having the resources you need to stop them. Next, Myotismon definitely comes in. Let me rephrase this. It's not the Myotismon deck. It is the Retaliation deck. That deck is really good in its conception. I feel like it keeps up with Jessamon very well, and as long as you can keep Retaliation on the board, unless they can remove the Digimon, they're not going to be able to stop majority of what you can do. The Skull Greymons in the deck, everything else just helps out 110%. So guys, don't sleep on that deck. That deck is probably going to shine really brightly. If you miss it, you blink kind of status. Next, let's talk about Bellastar. Bellastar is definitely tier 1 status. I feel like here she shines the best in the tier 1. She's not going to go anywhere for a little bit. She starts creeping down on BT7, but right now, BT EX Collection 1, you're looking at a very powerful deck all around. Nothing's going to change. Next, we have Tapirmon being Tapirmon. Rookie Rush, basically purple. It definitely doesn't shine as well as it used to. It's definitely coming down, and it's just going to stay down. I don't think purple Rookie Rush is a viable deck at the moment. It's just going to take a while for it to come back and shine. Next, let's talk about the elephants in the room, the black decks. First off, we do have the Commandramon decks. Commandramon decks in generalization is just really good. Overall, you can variant it very well because it's just a very core engine that just revolves around itself, but any added support just makes the deck even more threatening. I feel like it's a solid grade tier 2. I don't think it's tier 1 status, but it's high tier 2. It can definitely take on the tier 1s very easily, especially depending on the format it is in. And I feel like if you're facing high security control decks, this deck just recovers too much resources that the security control decks just can't keep up. So guys, remember that. Just pay attention to that. Black Royal Knights, guys. Oh man, I want to say it's tier 1, but I just see so much struggling with it that it falls to the wayside in tier 2. I feel like there's just too much powerhouse in the upper ring that the deck just can't always keep up with it. And if there's enough removal sources that even Craniumon can't stop it, you're done for. I feel like black is just needs a little bit more with Alphamon, and Alphamon's just going to get better and better for the next 2 sets. So guys, don't sleep on that. Just pay attention, get your Alphamons now, and just hold out and wait. Next, let's talk about it. Meta Edamon variant. I gotta say, Meta Edamon with Darkdramon, really good deck. I feel like it's a tier 2 deck still, but it's recursive, it's powerful, it's got so much going for it that it's really going to throw people off when they see it come down. Black's got a lot of support in EX, and it's got a lot of contender decks that just make people really nervous. Next, let's talk about it. I'm going to say Machinedramon, Mugandramon, either one, how you want to pronounce it, both fantastic, overly great decks. I'm excited for it. The deck is going to be a tier 1 contender for a good period of time, and you guys don't sleep on this. This card is going to make your opponent regret what they've done. This deck is just up there, and your opponent really doesn't have options to out it sometimes. And I gotta say, I'm proud of this deck. I'm excited to see what it can do. We have Diaboromon coming up in the rear here. I think Diaboromon is similar to Lilithmon Loop. It's a really powerful deck, but it didn't have enough time for it to shine its reports. I think this deck is a very solid tier 2 deck, maybe even close to tier 1, but that's like saying it's better than Shine Greymon at times and anti-meta. It's one of those hit or miss situations. I don't know where I want to put it. So guys, just pay attention to it. Don't sleep on it. Pick up the cards and just let go ham on it. Next, let's talk about it. Security Control is still a fantastic deck. It's not going anywhere. This trial deck's finally hit us, but the deck starts creeping down. It's going to drop to here eventually because the format's just going to be too fast paced for it to keep up, and it just has too much recursion that security control can't just pop something without having something come back with it. So definitely pay attention to that. Eosmon has like so many variants. It has a yellow, it's got a black, it's got a green. It's so good, but it still needs support. I think it's a tier 4 deck right now. Eosmon can definitely top. It can top when it's got all the cards playing for it, all going full on, full force. There's nothing that deck can't do. It could definitely take a tier 1 slot. But right now, Eosmon tier is just, it needs some more fine tuning, and it just needs a little more tweaking. And I promise you that deck is going to go crazy. Next, let's be honest, dedicated plan decks. This is what is to help counter the meta heavily. I think any deck can have a dedicated plan strategy as long as it's an OTK style, and then you just focus heavily with dedicated plan or emergency program shutdown and just go from there. Shut down options and your bodies stay on the board. So just think about the right plays, what moves you want to make, and that's how you're going to do it. So I think dedicated plan's a really good deck. I think it's right over here. Just with the OTK strategies, it just helps them out where it needed it to be. And I think this is a very solid tier list. Guys, what do you think about it? Let me know down in the comments. Do you think I made a decent tier list? What things would you change? What things do you think I was total BS in? And without further ado, remember, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace!